Somewhere in an old routing table from 1994, there's an IP address that isn't supposed to exist. Picture a green-on-black terminal at 3 in the morning. Logs scrolling past faster than anyone can read them, and one line that just doesn't add up. Network admins on early Usenet had a name for what they'd found: a black hole. Not because it was dangerous, because it worked too well. Data went in, nothing came out, no error, no bounce, just silence. And by the time anyone realized how much had disappeared into it, there was no trace left to follow. This is the story of the black hole IP addresses, one of the most disturbing case files buried in old internet threads, and the network administrator who tried to find out what was actually swallowing the traffic. Before we go further, if unexplained internet history is your thing, subscribe now because this list gets stranger from here. We'll call him Dale. In 1996, Dale worked the overnight shift at a regional internet provider in the Midwest. Back when the internet still meant dial-up tones and a handful of backbone providers routing everyone's traffic by hand. The network operations center was just a windowless room, a bank of monitors and a coffee pot that never emptied. His job was brutally simple: watch the logs, catch the errors, keep the lines up. Normal night, normal job. Until one log entry didn't add up. A small chunk of outbound traffic, maybe a few megabytes, was routing to an IP block that had never been assigned to anyone. Not a customer, not a competitor, nothing. Dale flagged it as a misconfigured route, a common enough glitch in 1996, and moved on. That was the small detail he chose to ignore. So where did those first few megabytes actually go? Nobody asked. Not yet. 3 weeks later, it happened again. Except this time it wasn't a few megabytes, it was gigabytes, pulled from multiple customers across different cities, all routing through that same dead IP block in the middle of the night. Dale ran a tracer route. The packets left his network, crossed 2 other providers' backbones, and then just stopped resolving. No host, no return ping. According to the registry, that address space belonged to no one. But something was clearly listening. Dale did what any admin would do. He captured a sample of the outbound packets before they vanished into the block. What he found wasn't garbage data, it was fragments of real files, partial emails, billing records, personal messages from actual customers, all being pulled toward an address that officially didn't exist. That's when the pattern becomes impossible to ignore for anyone reading this thread today. This wasn't a routing bug swallowing junk traffic. Something or someone was pulling specific private data out of the network through an IP address with no listed origin, no registered creator, and no way to trace where it actually landed. And the more Dale dug through the captures, the more the timing started to bother him. The pulls weren't random. They came in short, deliberate bursts, always a few minutes after new customer accounts were provisioned, as if whatever was on the other end already knew exactly when fresh data would be sitting there to take. Want to know the part of this case file that's genuinely unsettling? Here's the detail that still gets circulated on old forum threads about this incident, allegedly straight from Dale's own account. During his last capture, one of the returning packet fragments, the tiny scrap of data that came back, matched an internal memo he had typed on his own terminal minutes earlier. A memo that had never left the building's private network. Something on the other end of an unassigned address had a copy of something he hadn't sent anywhere. But one detail made no sense. If the address wasn't allocated, wasn't routable, and belonged to no known system on Earth, how was anything answering at all? Dale reported it up the chain the next morning, sample captures in hand. The official explanation, the one written into the incident log, was a root leak, a boring, forgivable networking mistake. Case allegedly closed within the week, except the detailed logs from that specific week were never recovered. Some say they were archived incorrectly. Others say they were deleted on request from somewhere above Dale's supervisor. Dale himself was reassigned to a different shift not long after. And according to the thread where this story resurfaced years later, he eventually left the company entirely. The original post, allegedly written by Dale himself under a throwaway account, was banned or deleted from the platform not long after it went viral in networking circles. Archived copies still circulate on image boards and old forum backups today, which is the only reason any of us know about it at all. Before this gets even stranger, quick favor. If you're the kind of internet user who saves these deep dive threads to watch later, hit subscribe now so the next case file lands in your feed. Want to know the part that keeps this case notorious instead of just forgotten? Dale's Midwest incident wasn't unique. A second case, less detailed, but circulating on the same forum threads, points to a university computer lab in 1998. A grad student, monitoring bandwidth for a research project, noticed nightly spikes routing to an unassigned block, almost identical to the one from Dale's story 2 years earlier. The origin was different. The provider was different. The state was different, but the pattern was the same down to the hour. Traffic vanishing overnight into an address with no owner, no creator, and no explanation anyone was willing to put in writing. Eventually, campus IT filed it as a proxy misconfiguration and moved on. The student's original post about it, according to people who claimed to have read it before it was deleted, ended with one line. "It's still happening. I just stopped checking." Security researchers scanning unassigned address space in later years have documented similar behavior. Data quietly routed into IP blocks that shouldn't accept traffic at all. Blocks with no registered origin and no known creator. Internet users and anons on networking forums have compiled informal lists of these ranges for years, comparing notes, trying to map exactly which dead addresses still respond. So is this just decades of bad routing tables, misread as something sinister? Or is there a pattern here that official explanations keep quietly filing away as unconfirmed case after case, decade after decade? Today, some of those original black hole ranges are still unassigned. Network hobbyists still occasionally trace a route into them out of curiosity and still report the same thing Dale did back in 1996. Partial responses from addresses that, on paper, aren't supposed to answer at all. The full thread detailing the Midwest incident is still found online if you know where to dig, buried under years of replies from other admins swearing they've seen the same thing on their own networks. Nobody has ever confirmed what or who was actually on the other end. And nobody's explained why, decades later, unassigned address space still occasionally answers back. If you want the next case file, the one longtime readers of this thread call even more disturbing than this one, it's coming up next. Subscribe so you don't miss it.